Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Have you ever felt a little confused about what AI literacy actually is? Like there is so much talk about it, but what does it really mean to be illiterate? Well, this is exactly the question a fascinating new study tried to answer. Imagine trying to map out all the different ideas people have about AI literacy. It is kind of like trying to organize a giant, messy closet filled with similar but slightly different items. That is where this research comes in, using some pretty cool technology to make sense of it all. So, the researchers noticed that when people try to measure AI literacy, they often use different definitions and different questions. This makes it really hard to compare results from one study to another. It's like everyone is using their own measuring tape. So you can't tell if one person is actually taller or just using a different tape. Their big question was, how organized is our understanding of AI literacy right now? Do all these different ways of measuring it actually fit together nicely? Or are they all over the place? They also wanted to see if the words used to describe a concept, like ethics, actually match the questions asked about it. Think about it. AI is everywhere now, from your phone to your work. So understanding it or being AI literate is becoming super important. But as the field grows, so do the ways we measure how much people understand. This can lead to confusion. The researchers looked at a bunch of different AI literacy questionnaires that have been created over time. They collected definitions of what AI literacy means and the actual questions or items used in these surveys. That's a lot of information. Now, for the clever part, instead of just reading through everything, which would take forever, they used a powerful AI tool called a large language model, or LLM. You know, like the AI that can write text. They used it to turn all those definitions and questions into a kind of meaning map. Imagine each word and sentence getting a coordinate on a giant map of meaning. This is called creating embedding. They fed all the text from the AI literacy definitions and items into these AI models. The models then turned the meaning of those words into numbers, creating these embeddings. They used 3 different AI models and picked the one that best showed how related the meanings were, measuring things like how similar the words are in context. Then they looked at this meaning map. They checked how close together the meaning coordinates were for different concepts and different questions. If 2 concepts were clearly different, their coordinates would be far apart. If they were very similar, their coordinates would be close. They used fancy visualizations, like those teeth-name plots you sometimes see to show these relationships as points on a 2D graph. What they found was really interesting. Looking at these meaning maps, they saw that a lot of AI literacy concepts kind of clumped together in the middle. These were the more technical and knowledge-based aspects. Think about understanding how AI works, using AI tools, or solving problems with AI. These areas were like a big, solid block on their map, showing a lot of overlap and similarity. But on the edges of this map, things were a lot more scattered and sparse. These were the parts related to feelings, motivation, and social stuff, like how comfortable people are with AI, whether they see its value or how they collaborate with it. These concepts were all over the place, not forming nice, tight clusters. Ethics also formed a sort of separate cluster. They also looked at how different groups of people were measured. For example, instruments designed for students tended to have more of these effective and motivational concepts, but they were still spread out. Instruments for adults focused more on the technical cognitive parts. This means that while we have a pretty good handle on the technical side of AI literacy, the emotional and social aspects are a lot less defined and consistent across different surveys. Now, remember how I mentioned checking if the definitions and the questions matched? This is where they looked for something called jingle-jangle fallacies. A jingle fallacy is when you use the same name for 2 different concepts. A jangle fallacy is when you use different names for concepts that are actually measuring the same thing. It is a tricky area in psychology and measurement. They found some examples of this. For instance, they noticed that constructs related to motivation and commitment, even when they had slightly different names, often used very similar questions. These questions were more about whether people found AI important or useful, rather than a pure sense of intrinsic interest. For example, a concept like intrinsic motivation was often measured by questions that really focused on how relevant AI is to people's lives or jobs. So even though the names might sound different, the actual measurement was quite similar. This is a jangle fallacy. Different names, similar measurement. On the flip side, they found some jingle issues. This is when things have similar names but are actually measured differently. 2 examples were technical proficiency versus technical understanding and critical evaluation versus critical comprehension ability. While the names sound alike, the questions used to measure them were quite distinct. For example, one technical measure might focus on actually being able to use a tool, while another might focus on knowing the concepts behind the technology. Similarly, one critical measure might be about spotting errors in AI output, while another is about cross-checking information from different sources. So, what does all this mean? The study highlights a clear imbalance in how we measure AI literacy. We're pretty good at capturing the technical and cognitive aspects, but the effective, motivational, and social ethical dimensions are much less clear and consistent across different measurement tools. This is important because as AI becomes more advanced, the human side of interacting with it, things like making ethical decisions, collaborating effectively, and understanding its societal impact become even more crucial than just knowing how to use it. Our current measurement tools aren't fully capturing this complexity consistently. The study also shows that for measures aiming for a broad understanding of AI literacy, there is a need for clearer distinctions between the different concepts they are trying to measure. For tools that are more focused on a specific context like AI in a particular job or for a specific age group, some overlap might be okay. This whole LLM-based approach is pretty neat. It offers a way to systematically map out these complex fields of research and identify potential problems with how we define and measure things. It can help researchers make sure their new measurement tools are really measuring what they say they are, and it helps us build a more consistent understanding of important concepts like AI literacy over time. Of course, no study is perfect. The researchers pointed out that the AI models they use were trained on general data, and maybe an AI model trained specifically on AI literacy content would give even more precise results. Also, they looked at how researchers defined concepts, not necessarily how people actually understand them when they take a test. That is something for future research. But overall, this research gives us a really valuable snapshot of where we stand with measuring AI literacy. It's a powerful reminder that as technology advances, our understanding and how we measure human skills need to keep pace, especially in those crucial social, ethical, and motivational areas. What do you think about these findings? Does it surprise you that the non-technical aspects of AI literacy are less defined? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science explained simply. We'll see you next time.